Hey everyone, my name is Angelo. Welcome to my Adobe Max 2021 lab session, focused on digital publishing and interactivity using InDesign. Over the next 60 minutes, I'm going to go over some really cool tips and tricks that will help you take your InDesign layouts and convert them into stunning interactive projects with button structures, animation, media, and much more. We'll also go over how to use the Publish Online feature to view your projects directly in a web browser or export as a fixed layout EPUB to view in an e-reader. So welcome to this lab session and let's get started. Hello and welcome once again to this lab session, Digital Publishing and Interactivity in InDesign. For this lab, I've broken it down into 4 parts. Here's a quick overview. Part 1 will be animation and timing. We'll go over how to choose a preset, add custom motion paths, and time animations. Part 2 is interactive buttons and multi-state objects. I'll show you how to create buttons with events and actions, as well as set up multi-state objects. Part 3 is adding media. We'll go over how to place video files in a layout and build a video slide. Part 4 is digital publishing and exporting. We'll use the Publish Online feature as well as exporting for EPUB fixed layout. All asset copy can be found in the CC Libraries link shared with you. There you will find 3 folders for each session that we go over, each part. The PDF workbook, which covers step-by-step instructions for this session, is also available for download. Let's create the first document for part 1, animation and timing. I'm going to click on Create New. That'll open up a new window here. Let's click on Web, the Web tab up top, and you want to choose A4 for this exercise. You'll see that the figures here are in pixels. We want 3 pages, facing pages unchecked, and then everything else looks good. We'll just hit Create. Now, I do want to mention that I've set up CC Libraries here, which you'll find all the copy assets in the Digital Publishing and Interactivity library. And I've broken them down here into lessons, so per lesson. So you want to access Lesson 1, Animation first. And before we get started, I do want to add some guides to this layout. So I'm going to go to my master page and go up to Layout, Create Guides. This is just going to help us as we're working along. The rows will be 4 and the columns will be 2. This is optional. If you want to work without guides, you can do that. I'm going to set the gutter space between the guides at 25 pixels for each row and column. And you can see if you click on the preview button here, you could see that the guides are there, and just hit OK. And just be sure to get out of the master page. So I'll click page 1, and you can see that those guides have been applied to all 3. Great. I'm going to go back to my CC Libraries, and you can see I've put together a few colors here and some other assets that you can work with as we go along here. Now, the first thing I want to do is grab the main artwork. It also has some copy attached to it. So I'm just going to click on the page and drag it right on the page itself, and just make sure it's centered horizontally, vertically, snapped to the page nicely. So you can see this is a fictional digital brochure for a fictional company. And what we're going to do up top here is create an animated shape to come in from the left, along with these headshots that you see in the library. So these profile images. I'm going to click on actually, before we go any further, I'm going to click on this main artwork here, and I'm going to lock it so we're not moving it as we're working here. So I'm going to go to my layers panel, and I'm just going to lock that, which is good. Great. Now I'm going to go to my rectangle frame tool, and I'm going to turn my guides on. And let's start it at this guide for now. I might move it a little bit further up. Yeah, I probably will. Something like that is fine. I want to give this a fill color of this gray, light gray color that I've provided in the CC library. Next, I want to bring in all 4 of these images. So the profile images, starting with Dante Gill. So that's the first one here that you see. I'm going to click that, hold my command key, click the others, and then I'm just going to drag them onto my page and simply click on the pasteboard. I'm going to just drop them in, and then I can bring them in individually. So let's do that. Dante Gill will be first, followed by Kelly Starks, followed by Francesco Pio. And of course, these are all made up names. And then CEO/President, Erica Smith. Now I want to make sure these are aligned horizontally. And also, I also want to make sure that they are spaced equally. So select Align to Selection and then choose Distribute Horizontal Centers. Then you'll have equal space in between each. Now it's time to animate this top portion. So I'm going to animate the shape first and then followed by each profile image. So let's click on the shape first. And now I already have animation open here. To get your animation panel, go to Window, Interactive, and Animation. All the interactive panels can be found here. I work in the Essentials workspace. If you wanted to work in the digital publishing workspace, simply click that and select digital publishing. That will take you to the digital publishing workspace where it'll bring in all these tools. You'll lose the properties panel and some other things. I like to bring these in individually. It just makes it easier to work. So now that I have the rectangle selected, you can see I want to rename it. So I'm going to call it Main Rectangle. Okay. And when I rename that animation, you'll notice in the layers panel that also creates the same naming convention there for you. So now that that's Main Rectangle, I do want to add a fly in from left preset animation. Now you can see there's many to choose from here. I'm going to select fly in from the left, and you can see, I'm going to zoom in here a bit. You can see the green motion path there. It's basically telling you where that's going to fly in from. Okay. Let's work our way down here. The duration for this entire exercise, all of it will be 0.5 seconds, okay? So that's a pretty smooth, quick transition on page load. 1 second would work fine, but I want everything to animate pretty quickly when the page loads. I only want this to play once, and then everything else is good. The opacity down here, I'm gonna choose none, so I don't want that to fade in. I want it to come in with a nice hard transition on page load. The only other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click the motion path with the selection tool, and now I'm just going to grab the left hand edge of it and drag it further out to the left so that shape travels from a further distance, and so you won't be able to see it at all. If I didn't do that, it would be kind of halfway onto the page. So basically, I've extended that. I might do it even a little bit more, just so it's off the page on page load. Let's see how that looks. I'm going to hit the EPUB preview window. That can be found on any of the animation, or I'm sorry, the interactive panels. I'm not sure if you saw that. I'll play it again. And there is the animation. So that is the first step. Now we want the headshots, the profile images to fly in after that comes in. So let's start with Dante Gill because we want that one to come in first. And so the preset here is also fly in from left. It will be on page load. The duration is 0.5 seconds. We will leave this as a fade in. And then everything else looks good, so let's move on to the next one. This one is Kelly Starks, and it will also be flying from left with a 0.5 second duration and a fade in. And let's go to the next one. I'm going to rename this to Francesco Pio just to remain consistent with the naming conventions. Good, so the preset here is also fly in from left on page load, 0.5 seconds. You could try 1 second. If you like that duration time, then leave it on 1 second. Preferably for me, I'm going half a second. So let's finish this off with Erica Smith flying from left. Page load, 0.5 seconds. And that's good. All right, so let's play that now. And by the way, the animations will play out. If you're not using the timing panel, which we'll get into in just a few moments, they will play out the way you animate them in the order you animate them on the page. So let's go ahead and hit the preview button again. There's the first, and there come the animated headshots at the end. Let me show you again. I'll hit the play button, shape, and then the 4 profile shots. So next, we're going to move down the page here, and down below, we're going to add 3 pie charts that we're going to animate with a rotation. That's up next. Next, we're going to add 3 pie charts to this space down below. In the CC libraries here, you can see I have them chart 1, chart 2, and chart 3. I'm going to click on the first one, hold my command key if you're on Windows, hold control, click the other 2, and then I'm just going to drag them onto the page. On the pasteboard is a good place to just drop them. Now there are 3 pie charts here. The first one is 2016. The second is 2010, and I'll put that in the middle. And the last one is 2015. I'm just going to maybe decrease the space between the 2 or 3. And then let's make sure that they're aligned. They're all sitting on that guide, so they are. And let's distribute the spacing equally. Perfect. I'm going to click on 2016. Let me zoom in here. And what I want to do is rotate it so it's 180 degrees, basically just flipping it upside down. Let's do it to the second one. You can hold your shift key when you're rotating. It'll snap. Good. Do the last one here. Hold your shift key. And there you go. So all 3 are now rotated at 180 degrees. And the reason being is, if you recall, I mentioned we're going to add an animation with rotation. Click the first one, chart 1. In the presets, I'm going to select fly in from, let's fly in from right. So the ones at the top, the profile images, we had those fly in from the left. We'll have these charts come in from the right. We do want it to come in on page load. The duration will be 0.5 seconds. And the animate to here, under the rotate dropdown, select that and choose minus 180. Leave the fade in, the opacity at fade in. Move on to the next one. This will be fly in from right, a 0.5 duration, a fade in for opacity, but remember the rotation has to be minus 180. Click on the last one, chart 3, and this will be fly in from right, on page load, 0.5 seconds, and this will also be minus 180 for rotation with an opacity fade in. Let's go ahead and test it out and see how this looks. I'm going to click on the EPUB preview window. You'll see that the top animation comes in first, just like we set it up, followed by the 3 pie charts. You saw that they came in with a rotation. Basically, we took the 180 rotate and then rotated them back to their original appearance with an animation. So we're going to move on to the next part of the exercise. For this next exercise, we're going to be using the pen tool to create custom motion paths. On this page, I'm going to bring in another piece of artwork, and I'm just going to drop it in and place it right over that background on top of that guide that I have there. I also want to bring in 2 guides here, so I'm going to bring in one and snap it to that margin, the left margin. I'm going to hold my shift key, and then while doing so, press my right arrow key 3 times, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to add another guide on the right side, hold shift, and in this time, press the left arrow key 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Now I have 4 icons here. I'm going to bring in the first one. So it's called icons 1, I believe. And I'm going to snap the left side of it to this guide. And this is where we're going to use the pen tool to create a custom motion path. So basically, I'm going to grab the pen tool from my tools panel, and I'm going to start the path right in the left corner of the page. I'm going to add another point here, and the last point will be right around, it doesn't have to be precise, but right around where that icon is sitting currently. I'm going to grab the selection tool and select both the icon and the path that we just created. In the animations panel, down below on the right-hand side, there's something called Convert to Motion Path. Go ahead and click that. You see it created a motion path, but it created it in an opposite direction. That's okay, we'll fix that shortly. The preset for this says custom, so that's good. It will be on page load, also good. The duration, you guessed it, is 0.5 seconds. There will be no rotation here, but we do want to animate where it says properties, animate. That drop down there, we want it to animate to its current location. So go ahead and click that. It's the third option from the bottom. Now, instead of repeating that same process with the pen tool, what you could do is just create 3 more copies of this, and we'll space them out equally in just a moment. And then what I'll do is bring in the other 3 icons and just drop them below for now. I'm going to cut the laptop icon first, so Command X or Control X. Right click on the second one and then paste into. It'll replace it. Let's select the globe, Command X, right click, paste into, and then the last one, right click, Command X, click on the last icon, right click, paste into. So they've all been updated. Let's make sure that they're aligned properly and distributed properly. And I want this last one to go on the very right edge. Now let's distribute them. Perfect. So that's good there. What I'll do now is bring in the 4 pieces of information, and I'll drop them right underneath. So work efficiently is number 1. And then share with ease is number 2. Support and security is number 3. And then the last one is access on any device. Let's just make sure that those bottom edges are aligned, and then we can move them up a little bit closer. These will appear at the very end. So what we want is to have all 4 of these icons to come in, and then these will come in separately on a fade in. So let's see how the icons look first. I'm going to click on the EPUB preview window, and you can see they bounce off and then go to their current appearance. But you did notice, if I play that again, do you see at the bottom they're still appearing? We don't want that. So click on each one, and in the visibility option in the animation panel, hide it until it's animated. So click each one, hide until animated, hide until animated, hide until animated. So if you play that now, you'll see that they'll come in individually. But what if I want them to all come in together at the same time? This is where you're going to need the timing panel. I'm going to drag that into the same window here, timing, which you could also find under Window, Interactive, Timing. Do you notice here, icons 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4? They're all there, but they're playing in that order. I'm going to click on one, hold my Command key, click the others, and down below on the right-hand side here, there's an option to play them all together. I'm going to press that, and let's see now, instead of having them come individually, they all come in on that custom motion path that we created together. Now, as a last bit here, let's go back to animation and add a fade in animation to these information pieces. So on page load is fine, 0.5 fade in, and do the same thing for the others. Basically, all you're changing for these is adding the preset of fade in and then changing the duration time. Everything else is fine. Click the last one, fade in with a duration of 0.5 seconds. And let's give this a go now with the EPUB preview. There they are, and they come in individually. That's great. So this one is all set as well. Basically, we can move on to the next part of the exercise for animation and timing. For part 2, interactive buttons and multi-state objects, we're actually using the same page size as part 1, animation and timing. So if I go to my properties panel, we're on A4, and the only difference is you can see we still have 3 pages. So you can create another document that has this setting, but make sure that facing pages is checked. So we want that selected. Down below, you can see I have a spread here, which will add the content and animation to. I wanted to start things off by going to the cover page. I have one here. I'm just going to drag it onto the blank page and drop it in there and drag it right on that page. So reason being is when we publish this to EPUB fixed layout and open it in an e-reader such as Apple Books, it looks much nicer when it opens with a cover rather than just a blank white page. So I've provided that, and you could just drop that in. You'll see that when you publish it, it looks much nicer in the e-reader. So for this part, let's start with the rectangle frame tool. And I'm just going to drag out a rectangle that stretches across both pages. And I have a color here. I just want to make sure, yeah, I'm on the fill, and just fill it with that color that I've provided there. However, let's make the tint of that 20%. Great, so now I have the main artwork here as well. I'm going to drag that onto the left page, drop, and then just drag it over the page. And so this is the main model with wearing some of the clothes that we're going to be highlighting in the catalog on the right page here, the interactive catalog that we're going to be setting up. So you can also see I have those pieces of clothing here, blazer, pants, and a couple shirts and boots. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold Command, and click on the others, drag, and much like I've been doing with the other exercises, just drag and drop, okay? We can figure out how they appear once they're on the page. Before I go too far, I want to show you that in the Layers panel, blazer main, pants main, top main, these are all the images on the page right now, and they're actually in the order that we want. So I'm going to select all of them, and with my alignment tools, align the horizontal, vertical centers, and let's drag it right to the left-hand side of this page here. And so for this part, we're going to need object states and buttons and forms. To access those, again, just go to Window, Interactive, Buttons and Forms, and there's object states. Group them together in the same panel with layers, okay? With these all selected, I want to go to Object States and select this icon down below, Convert Selection to Multi-State Object. You can see when I do that, it says state 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to rename the object name to main product. Let's say main product images. Okay. And I can click on each one of these and it scrolls right through those individual states. So that's a good starting point. Now we're going to bring in the description, the price, what the product is, the price, and a little description of each. And I've supplied those right underneath the products themselves. So plaid blazer, again, just hold your command key, control on Windows, click the others, and then just drag them onto the page. And you guessed it, just drop them in. Okay. And much like the product images, these are all ordered in the fashion that I want them to appear. Blazer, pants, info, long sleeve, tiered sweater, boots, okay? So again, let's use our alignment tools to align those accordingly. And we want that to be somewhere like right here is fine, okay? And again, go to your Object States window and turn on or select, convert the selection to a multi-state object. And so Now, as it stands, the product image states align with each one of the info, okay? So for this one, to make it easier to find as we're working, this will be main product information, okay? That makes it much easier as you're working. I also have, let's see what I have here. No, I'll bring that in after. Okay, so what I want to do here, let's bring that up, bring these up. We have to bring in each one of the cards that I selected here or created. Artwork 9, 10, 11, 12. It's basically a duplication of the images. So let me bring those in and show you what I mean. I'm going to drag those and just drop them right underneath again. I have to reverse them. So let's move boots over here, pants a second, and then sweater. Great. So basically I'm going to have the blazer, the pants, and then the top, the sweater, and then the boots will be last. So now that these, let's align them again, and let's distribute them as well. And basically what these will be are buttons that will trigger each one of these states that we've created, the multi-state objects. I'm going to bring this down to center that there, okay? So let's create these into buttons to trigger the multi-state objects next. Let's click on the first button, which is actually going to be the blazer, and we'll match it up to the blazer product image and the product information. I'm going to click on it, and in buttons and forms, select button, and let's call this main, or let's call it blazer button. The action here is go to state. And you'll notice in the object here, it has both of the multi-state objects that we created. So main product images and main product information. Let's select product images and leave it on state 1. However, let's create a secondary go to state action. And in this case, we want main product information, and we want to select plaid blazer. So now we've triggered this button here to trigger both of these. One other step is I want to select rollover and double click into this to drive into that selection. And then I'm going to go to my properties panel here and change the opacity to about 60%, just to dim it a little bit when you're rolling over. So you can see normal and rollover. Perfect. Let's move on to the pants button, plaid pants button. The action will be go to state. The go to state object here will remain on product images. However, the state is now state 2. Add a secondary go to state. Change the object name to product information and change the state to plaid dress pants info. Click on rollover, double click to drive into that selection and make the opacity 60%, and then click back on normal just to go back to the normal appearance. Let's click on the third one, button, and this will be long sleeve button is good. The action here will be go to state. That will remain product images. The state is going to be state 3. Click rollover, double click to drive into that selection and make it 60%. Click normal to go back. We forgot to add one more. I forgot to add one more state. So let's do that. Action is state, go to state, and this will be main product information, and this will be long sleeve top. So you can see there's lots of steps here, right? But taking your time, working efficiently, renaming things is very important as well. So this is tiered sleeve sweater. Okay. The action here is go to state. Product images is fine. State 4. You can see those thumbnails that are next to the state names is actually very, very helpful. Let's add a secondary state. main product information, tiered sweater. Rollover, double click, 60% opacity, and then click normal to go back. Let's click on the boots. This is the last one we have to set up here. And this will be boots button. The action will be go to state, and the state will be 5. Let's add a secondary, go to state action, main product information, and the state is faux leather boots. So let's test this out. Actually, we have to set up the rollover here on this last one. Always remember to double click to drive into the rollover appearance and then make it 60% and then click normal back to normal. Let's test this out. Let's see how it looks just to make sure it works and it looks good as we move along here. So you can see if I hover over them, they all dim as I roll over. But I also click and you can see the description and the product name are both changing as I'm clicking on each one. Great, let's add another type of animation with buttons down below in this space here. You'll notice I added some headlines here with a font that I'm using for this exercise that I should mention. It's Rift. So this is the typeface Rift, which is also a Adobe font. And in this case, I'm using a demi-bold version of it. So new arrivals in sales. And now we're going to move on to purses and handbags. So for this, in my CC Libraries copy assets that I've compiled here for you, just move that back in here. You'll notice that I have 2 arrows, a left and a right. So let's bring those both in. Again, drag and drop. Let's move the right one to the right side and the left one to the left side. I'm going to select both and just make sure that they're aligned. I'm going to lock this rectangle so it doesn't get in the way as we're working. So just open your layers panel and lock it. And for this, I have 3 handbags that I want to highlight. I'm going to grab all 3 and drag them and drop them right into the layout. And much like the other pieces of artwork that we've been working on, they're all renamed and they will appear in the order purse 1, 2, and 3 in the layers panel. If for whatever reason they're not in that order, just drag them in that order, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to select all 3. Again, align them vertically, horizontal centers. And then I'm going to place it here for now. And I'm also going to just increase the size of them a little bit. Perfect. And with this, let's go to object states. And remember, in the bottom right-hand corner of the object states window, convert the selection to multi-state object. So you can see, let's rename that main handbags, main handbag images. Okay. Good way of differentiating images and then the other, just call one images and then the other information. And you'll see that all 3 states are there. Now, just because they're placed in the multi-state object doesn't mean you can't go in and alter things. For instance, I have state 1 selected. I can double click to drive into that state, click on the donut or content grabber and move the handbag left or right. You can also increase the size if you want. That's good. Let's see state 2. Again, double click to drive into it. Maybe increase the size a bit for that specific handbag and not the others. Only because this one is a little bit smaller than the others. Other than that, I think that looks pretty good. Let's double click on this one, increase the size and move it to the left and move it up. Perfect. Now that you have the handbags the way you want, let's bring in the information to go with them. So again, hold your command key, click the others, drag and drop. Okay, so Vucci handbag, Quest tote bag, and Bellevue bag. Select all 3. They should be in the order that I've ordered them for you. For this one, don't align the vertical centers. We want to don't align the horizontal centers. We want to align the left edges, just so they're all aligned on the left-hand side. And I want to bring them a little bit closer to the handbags. Grab the handbag multi-state object, and let's move everything to the left a little bit. Perfect. Now let's select the descriptions and let's create a secondary multi-state object. You see Vucci handbag, Quest tote bag, and then Bellevue. This one will be called main handbag information. And now we can focus on creating the buttons. So I'm going to select the first right button and go to the buttons and forms panel, select button. This will be called next button. And the action here, it won't be go to state, it'll be go to next state. And you'll notice in the object, I have product images. Let's add a secondary go to next state action. And for this one, let's select, we have to click the first one and make sure that it's on main handbag images and not main product images. So handbag images, click the second one, and this will be handbag information. Okay. Now you also have an option here to stop it at the very last state, or just keep it looping throughout. I'd like to leave it like that, but that's personal preference to you. Let's go to the left-hand side. This will be a button. And here it will be previous button. So we have a next and previous. Click the action and select go to previous state. Select the object and choose main handbag images. Click the action for a secondary go to previous state and select main handbag information. Now let's go ahead and test these out and see they all work. Again, I'm going to hit the preview EPUB. It's a great way to test your work. These all work as I showed you before. Now the handbags, I'll click to the right. You can see both the handbag and I can loop right through, and the previous one works as well. So now that we've completed the second part, we can move on to the third part of the session, which is adding media. Let's start the next exercise, adding media. For this, we'll be working on a different page size, so we're going to create a new document. Select the Web tab. In the width field, let's make that 1920. In the height field, we'll make that 1080. And the pages will be 2. Go ahead and click Create. Again, we'll be drawing from the CC libraries where you can find the copy assets. And you can see I've created a third grouped folder called Lesson 3 Adding Media. Let's start this exercise off by grabbing the first piece of artwork and just dragging it onto the page and then dropping it on the page. Drag it into position. So this is a fictional documentary of a Canadian cyclist, pro cyclist, cycling across Canada in 80 days. And so I've left some space here to highlight the trailer. If you go in the CC libraries, it's the second asset in the library from the top. Now, when we're adding media, there's a couple ways of doing so. First, you can go to File and Place, and then you can place a media file much like you would an image asset or even a story or copy. Also, you can drag it onto your layout from your desktop. That's another way, and then dragging or just dropping it. But of course, I've added it in here for you. So I'm going to drag and then, of course, just drop it. And you see down below here, I'm getting this prompt about an interactive PDF may not support playback. That's correct. What we're doing here today is strictly for either publish online or export for EPUB fixed layout. Rich media will not play in PDF interactive. only because it's Flash based. And so what we're doing here is supported by the rich media is supported by HTML5. Okay, so I'm going to just close that. You may get that prompt. Just know that you're not going to have to worry about it for what we're doing. I'm going to drag this into that space there, and then just center it to the space. And then what I'm going to do actually is ungroup this background. So Shift Command G. You can also go to Object and ungroup. And I'm going to zoom back in, and now this should align better with my smart guides. There. Now that is centered in that frame that I've left. This watch the trailer, I'm just going to Shift Command and right square bracket to bring it to the front. You could also go to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Now, if I click on this video is now dropped in, and you can actually preview it by clicking any of the interactive panels here. So Object States is fine, and then click Preview EPUB. And you'll see there's the video there. If I click the play button, there's the video. Now it has some sound, so I'm just going to turn the sound off. So this is basically just a short montage of the trailer highlighting the 80 days, 20,000 kilometers, just a short trailer. Now I had to play it by clicking on the play button. What we're going to do now, or what I'll show you how to do, is trigger it from this watch the trailer. So as a user experience, I can go in, or the viewer can go in and click this button to play that video. To do that, open the Buttons and Forms panel. You should still have that open. Click on the Watch the Trailer button that you have here. Convert that into a button. This will be called Trailer Button. The event is on release or tap. The action here, we're going to select video. You see that it's under the EPUB/publish online only and not in the PDF only part. So click that. And because this is the only video we have on the page so far, the only video available when we drop this down is the one that's on the page. And the option here is to play. Now you can create a separate button that triggers it to stop or triggers it to pause. It would do the same thing. Just note that you would have to create a separate button for that. For this, we're just setting it up to play the video. So let's go ahead and test it out now. Of course, I can still go in and control it from the play head button here. However, I've triggered it. I've set this up as a button now to play the video as well, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to just turn that down. You can also make it full screen and then go back. And so that is how you place a video. Next, we're going to use a combination of Buttons and Forms and Object States to create a really cool, stunning video slide. So let's do that next. For this exercise, we'll use a combination of Buttons and Forms and Object States to create a video slide. In my CC libraries, I've set up the main artwork for the page. So let's bring that in and drop it on the page, and then just position it in the center. So on the left-hand side, we'll use the space to add the videos and 3 other images that will turn into buttons to trigger each video individually. On the right-hand side, we'll add some information to kind of explain the cities that we're highlighting. So this is a fictional travel and lifestyle presentation, and it's highlighting 3 must places to visit. And so I have those videos here. One is Montreal, one is Chicago, and one is New York. So I'm going to click on the first one, hold my Command key, and click the other 2. And much like we've been doing, just drag them on and then click on the pasteboard to drop them in. Now in my layers panel, let me tear that off too, and I'll combine it with these other ones because we're going to be toggling with these 3 mainly. So you can see here I have Montreal.mp4, New York.mp4, Chicago.mp4. So again, it's important to add MP4s to your layouts, and also if you have a .muv, for instance, and it's a larger file, use something like Media Encoder, so Adobe Media Encoder, to reduce the size and make it something like a YouTube HD sized video at 1080, which is very much more manageable for an InDesign layout, and it won't bog things down because they're not very large files. And these files here are just short clips anyhow. So I want to have Chicago in between the two. So in the order of Montreal, Chicago, and New York. I'm going to select all three and use my align horizontal centers, align vertical centers, and let's bring them over to the page here. What I also want to do here is add a stroke to these videos. So go to your properties panel, and in the stroke panel, select paper, and let's make the stroke something like 8, just so we get some nice separation from that color and then the videos. And so down below here is where we're going to add those 3 buttons. I am going to lock this background because we may need to select things and I don't want it getting in the way. So where it says here group, go ahead and lock it. Okay. Now going back to CC libraries, you can see here I have Montreal, New York, Chicago. These will be the buttons that we'll place underneath. So go ahead and click on Montreal, hold Command or Control on Windows and select New York, and then select Chicago, and again, drag and just drop. Okay, so I want Montreal to be first, followed by Chicago, and then New York, and space them out. We can distribute them evenly using our distribute options. And then let's center it to the video. See how that looks? Good. You can have them overlapping. I put them in the library with a stroke as well. You can remove the stroke from these buttons. I have it ever so slightly overlapping the video, and that's okay. But much like we did with the videos, let's go ahead and reorder them in the way we want. So, and we have to rename them. So let's click on Montreal, and there it is there. It just says group for now. So let's click it until it highlights, and then just say Montreal group. Click on Chicago, and this will be Chicago group. And then click on New York, and this will be New York group. So it's very important to rename the groups and the buttons in your layers panel as you're working, just so you know what group is, okay? So now there's no confusion. I am going to drag Chicago as the second one. And let's go ahead and bring in the pieces of information to go with these videos here. So I have Montreal, Chicago, New York, and let's drag them on the page. Click, click, click. Let's go ahead and drag to select all of them. Let's align the left edges and then center the vertical centers. And then just place it somewhere, maybe in the center point is fine. And you can see in my layers panel again, let's see how they're arranged here. Montreal, Chicago, New York. Perfect. So Montreal, Chicago, New York. That's exactly the order we want. So now we can start creating these selections into multi-state objects. Let's start with the videos. I'm going to select them. You can see they're highlighted in my layers panel. Go to object states and convert that selection to a multi-state object. Let's rename that multi-state to main videos. Remember that renaming the object states is very, very important, especially when you're setting up the buttons. That's why it's so important. It takes out any of the confusion. So there's state 1, there's state 2, there's state 3. So much like we did in the second exercise with the fashion clothes, this is the same concept, but the cool thing is you can do it with videos. So now let's do the same thing with the information pieces. Let's create that into, or convert that into a multi-state object. And this will be main city, let's call it main city info, okay? And you can see the naming convention carries over to the states. Montreal Info Group, Chicago Info Group, New York Info Group. Perfect. All right, now let's set up the buttons. So this is the fun part, because you remember in exercise 2, we set up 2 actions to set up the multi-state actions. In this case, we're going to set up 3. So it's 1 extra button trigger. So let's start with Montreal. And let's go to buttons and forms. And again, this is going to be a button, and let's call it Montreal button. And the action here will be go to state. Let's add another action to go to state, and then a third action to go to video. Okay, so let's click the first one. This is main video, state 1. The second go to state is main city info, and we want it to trigger Montreal Info Group. And then you can see it also plays the Montreal video. I also want to add a rollover effect to this. So let's click rollover, double click into that selection, click on the content grabber. And because I've scaled these down, the opacity to dim them originally, let's bring it back to its original opacity, okay? So you can see normal, and then it'll light up when you hover over it. Let's move on to Chicago. So this will be a button, and it will be called Chicago button. The action here is go to state. Let's add a second go to state. So 2 go to states and a video, okay? So let's click on the first go to state, and that is main videos state 2. The second go to state is main city info, Chicago. And you could see the video here. You have to be careful because it still says Montreal. Let's select Chicago, okay? And you can see the option here is to play. So that's exactly what we want. Let's add a rollover effect to this. Double click again to get into the content. And you can see it says 35%. I'm going to drive that up to 100% and then go back to normal. We have one more here, and then we can test things out. So this will be button. This is New York button. The action here is go to state. Secondary action, go to state. And a third action to play video. Click on the first go to state. Main video is the object. However, we want to set that to 3, which is the New York video. Click on go to state, the second one, and this will be main city info. However, this will be New York Info Group. Click on Montreal, the video. You can still see it says Montreal because it's the first one as a default. Click that, and we want it to play New York. I'm not sure why they're not in order in that video dropdown, but nonetheless, they're renamed. They're named previously, which makes it much easier to find. So there you go. And then as a last point here, let's click on rollover, double click, and then let's click on the content grabber, and then just drive up the opacity, and then click normal. So you have rollover and normal. Let's test this out here and see how it looks. And obviously making sure that everything works. Those were a lot of steps, I know, but making sure that they work is just as important. So let's roll over them. You see that it lights up when we roll over those buttons, which is great. And so let's click Chicago. Chicago video plays. It also went to the Chicago video. Okay. And then the Chicago information also appeared. New York, there's the New York video. There's the New York information. And let's click Montreal. Perfect. So those all work. And so now we can start going on to the next part 4, where I'm going to show you how to share this. So publish online or export for EPUB fixed layout. Let's do that next. One question I'm often asked is, how do I share this project after I've completed it? So all the interactivity, animation, buttons, they're all maintained, they're all intact. There are two primary ways of sharing or exporting the work. The two that we'll be going over are publish online as well as export for EPUB fixed layout. So the first way is going up to File and Publish Online, or simply clicking the Share button in the upper right-hand corner to publish online. It's going to bring up the Publish Your Document Online window. You want to publish as a new document. Give it a title. So typically it'll just be, as a default, it'll be what your InDesign document is called. But this is a good chance of you renaming it if you want to be a little bit more specific about what the project is. So this is a corporate brochure. And the description is corporate brochure for Bulky Inc., the fictional company in the corporate brochure that we worked on in part 1. The pages here, you have the option to export all the pages or select a range by typing the page numbers in there. Single pages or spreads. You can allow viewers to download the document as a PDF. If you select the Advanced tab up here, you also have the option to change the thumbnail for social media. So if I were to share this document, share the link on a social site, this is a good opportunity of selecting one of the thumbnail pages in a document by choose page yourself or choose the first page, or you can also choose an image that maybe you've created beforehand. There are some other image settings here that you can look after. If I go back to general, I'm just going to select publish. InDesign is going to do its thing. It should take a few seconds. And then more options here will appear where you can view the document, copy the link, and maybe share it somewhere else. You can share it on Facebook, Twitter, email. So I'm going to click View Document. That's going to open up in a web browser. And you can see all the animation we worked on carries over to your web browser experience. I go to the second page. You can see the animation works there, as well as on that third page. That's all maintained as well. One cool thing about this as another option for you is if I wanted to get this onto a website, you can do that by going in the bottom right-hand corner and clicking these 3 dots and then selecting Embed. That's going to bring up this Embed on your site window. You can choose the size you want it to be displayed on. So I'll choose the large size and select the code and copy it. So just Command or Control C. I've started a Behance project here. And just to show you how this works, if I click on the Embed button here, this would be great if you were doing like a portfolio piece or something that you wanted to highlight that you've done, like a digital publishing project. I'm going to paste that in here, Embed Media, much like you would any other embed code, and then just hit Embed. And you can see the project carries over with the animation, with the interactivity, and then you can scroll through it and all that carries over with it, which is really, really great. So the other way, if I go back to my InDesign project, let's close this. And I have the catalog that we worked on in part 2. For this one, we'll publish it, or I'm sorry, we'll export it for EPUB fixed layout. This will be opened in an e-reader. For me, I'm going to open it in Apple Books. There are many e-readers out there, Adobe Digital Editions, Google Play Books. Find one that's right for you. But obviously, if you're on an Apple or even an iOS, it works very well on that platform. Okay, so let's go to File and Export. And I'm going to publish it here, Interactive Buttons Part 2, and just hit Save. I'm sorry, let me go back because I want to show you the selection here. So as a default, it would likely default to Adobe PDF Print. You don't want to select Adobe PDF Interactive for this because it won't work. Object states, those types of things won't work for PDF Interactive. So let's select EPUB Fixed Layout and select Save. Again, there are some other settings here that you can look after. You can export the range. We only have 3 pages here, so I'm going to hit OK. Now that's automatically going to open in Apple Books. If you get a warning, just hit OK. And do you remember we added a cover? That's exactly why we added a cover, is because the cover shows up first. If we didn't add that, that page would be blank, which would have been perfectly fine for this session. But just keep note of that if you're doing a spread for EPUB, the first page will be just a blank page because it's an automatic cover. So I'm going to go to View and then enter full screen mode. I am in Apple Books now. And let's go ahead and go to the next page. You can see our layout is intact. The hover appearance rollover that we created also intact. We can click through, that carries over. The go to next state buttons with the handbags, those work as well. And we can go to the previous as well. So those all work, and they work exactly how we set them up, which is always a nice thing. Thank you for joining me and following along in this lab session, Digital Publishing and Interactivity in InDesign. I hope you found it informative and learned new techniques you can carry over to future projects. Feel free to connect if you have any questions about what we covered today. Until then, take care and keep creating.